so I grew up quite roughly, and some of my choices I made weren't the best choices. So I found myself getting involved in drug dealing, gangs, and so from that it led me down to spiral into a criminal past. So I got in trouble with the police a lot, and yeah, when I was younger, I didn't have much dreams and aspirations like others. I had to witness a lot of violence, a lot of domestic abuse. My mum was getting hurt in front of me. She was on drugs, my father was on drugs, and I was neglected as a child, so I really had no form of I didn't even have a timetable. I didn't have a dinner time. I didn't have these normal things that other kids had. I was left on the streets on my own, and I was brought up around just calling prime people. It started very young for me. It started at the age of 8. I started delivering parcels for people, so I became a drugs runner at the age of 8. I grew up on an estate called Grand Park Estate. It's in North London. It's quite a bad estate. At the same time, back then it was a small community, everyone knew who I was. So I got this scooter, and that's when it started for me. The boys saw me in the neighbourhood on the scooter around a lot. I already had a little bit of a reputation as a bad child. They got me involved quite quickly into delivering parcels for people. At the time I didn't know what parcels was. It wasn't until I got older until I realised. I was also given a Nokia phone by then as well, so those years I would have been 8, 33 years of age now. Them years to have a Nokia phone like that was very expensive. So occasionally they would call me on the phone to come out from my house and then go and deliver this parcel to someone in the concourse. I wasn't getting a lot for it, but I was managing to get, so I'd get 50p for every one I put. Sometimes I'd get nothing. I would expect 50p, which is what they used to give me then. I don't know if that was a lot of money back then, but to me it felt like so much, and I would use that money to go buy 50 penny sweets. I used to buy those because they used to cheer me up. I had quite a lot of Pokemon cards and stuff because I would use those 50p's to sometimes get packs, and yeah, I'd say Pokemon was something I really liked. My mum was just on prescription drugs, smoking a lot of weed, and I was allowed to free run and go out, stay out for days on end. My mum neglected me, she wasn't feeding me, so it wasn't a home where I was anyway, but the home that I was playing to was a lot worse. So I remember my brother getting taken, and then a year later I got taken. I remember my mum trying to find me to get me into the house. She found me, she got me into the house, and then there was a lady there with an Easter egg. She said to me, "Oh, you're going away somewhere for like a week and a couple of days, but you're definitely coming back." And straight away I knew something was up, because my brother had just left a year ago. I saw a lot of stuff in care that, just wasn't good. So the first care home that I went to, I was abused by the family. I didn't know where I was. I was told I was only there for a week, so I was just banking on the fact that next week someone's going to come and take me back home. I could go back out on my scooter and deliver parcels and stuff, So I didn't understand that. I didn't even get anything to play with, so I was just locked in a room. I realised that my mind was a lot more overactive than other people, because I was thinking a lot. I was thinking bad stuff sometimes. I didn't want to live. I wanted to die, so I kept saying to myself, but I didn't want to hurt myself. Back then I didn't even know you could do that, because I'd seen so many people get hurt living with my mum and stuff, and I saw a lot of trouble on the estate. A lot of people get stabbed and stuff, so I didn't think you could hurt yourself anyway, so something I was never self-harming. As I say self-harming, I harmed in other ways. I took my frustration and anger out on others. Maybe I shouldn't have. It was bad, and it took a year for them to investigate, a year for the courts to say, yeah, we need to get him out of this house. I was being force-fed as well. They also had 2 big Rottweilers, and that was their way to intimidate me. So if I did try and run away, those dogs would get you before you got out the door. I didn't realise I was a victim of abuse until I got older, but they realised it because of the reports I was telling them, and they gave the release from that home to another home. I then went to live with another family. They had their own kids. I could say that's the only 2 years of my life I've enjoyed so far. It was lovely. It was on the seaside. It's a little small community, like a little village. You can even see France on some days. Like you could just see it in the distance, like as a bit from, like you can see. It's 11, and I stayed with them until I was 13 years of age. They were a wonderful family, and they really did their best for me. They tried very hard with me. Obviously, I was damaged. Damaged, all the stuff I'd been through. I don't think they had as much of an idea of what I was going through than what they were told, because I think foster families are not told everything about the child, this stuff they don't know. So it might shock them, the foster parents, to even know that I was involved in drugs and stuff. So basically, yeah, I had a nice 2 years with them. I didn't feel like I was one of their children because I still felt much alone, you know, but they really did try. I didn't see them giving their kids anything I didn't have, so they gave me a lot. When I look back on it, I regret hassling the carers to go back with my mum because they pushed so hard and it worked. It was always in my head. I always wanted to go back there. The neglect, I wasn't thinking about it. I just wanted to go back to what I thought was a normal life, because at the time I was having contact with my mum every 6 weeks still. My mum was making out to me like she's really missed me and stuff. She'd buy me gifts, and well, that was my mum, you know, so I'd feel, you know, pretty upset about not being with her. So, and at this time she had another 2 kids with another guy, and I wanted to be there with them. I think I was that much of an issue with them at the end. Like I was causing them problems that they needed to put me somewhere else, and they didn't want to put me back in Kinkia. They wanted to follow where my heart was. When I did go there with them, it wasn't the same straight away. It just wasn't nice. It wasn't a nice atmosphere. My mom was smoking a lot of weed, prescription drugs. So she was on a lot of antidepressants and stuff like that. My mom kept calling me names. It didn't feel how I thought it would in my head. I had to come to a decision myself. I couldn't stay in the house with my mom. I think I was 14 at the time. And then I put myself back in care. He said, at your age, most foster parents won't have you now. And I couldn't understand that, so I said, where am I going to go then? They said to me, when I put you in a children's home, I said, okay, I'll take it, because it was so bad. Back at my mum's house, there was a girl there, had learning difficulties. She shouldn't have even been in a children's home. She had hygiene issues, she couldn't read. I think she was about 17 years of age. But she had the mind of like an 8-year-old, 7-year-old. She shouldn't have been in a children's home. She should have been somewhere where she could have been more looked after. She was suffering in that. And then there was another girl. She would cut herself quite a lot. She'd go in the bathroom and there's blood everywhere. They put them there because they don't know where to put them, and they haven't got the time to spend with them. I leave the children's home for days, and that's when I started getting into the gangs again. So at 16 they said to me, we're going to give you your own place. 16, you shouldn't have your own place, you know. Being lonely and not having many friends around me at all, thought it was right just to invite the gang members to my house. It was just a hive of activity. I used to smoke a lot of weed and just deal drugs. So from there I started getting into a lot of trouble. And then that's when it started to spiral for me. I was getting in trouble with police and stuff. So I'll be honest with you, I don't have any friends now because I don't trust anybody. I keep myself to myself. I'm not involved in any crime whatsoever anymore. I have a lot of guilt. Guilt's always been a big part of my life. Friends that I did have, unfortunately they passed away because of their choices. Everyone I've worked with are dead. They're not like me. I think when you've had so much loss in your life, when you feel lost and you've seen so much loss, I don't know, it doesn't really affect you as much as it would the average Joe, you know, person. So I got hurt quite bad which made me wake up to reality. So since then I haven't been involved in any criminality whatsoever. I was stabbed in my leg, robbed at knife point by 7 masked men and strangled. And then all I remember is waking up on the ground with no clothes on me, and all my clothes have been cut, because here people conceal their drugs in there's different ways to conceal drugs, and they obviously thought I had some drugs. When I woke up, I was laying on the road, that's all I remember, and there was just blood everywhere. I looked down, checked my chest first, but then I found I had a stab wound here on my left leg. So at that time, we didn't have much that we could do with it. Couldn't call an ambulance, couldn't call the police because of the what I was involved in. Didn't want to get into any trouble. Plus it was right outside where the spot was, which people call it a trap. I used to call it the spot, place where you store drugs and place where you do your dealings. So yeah, it was stressful. I had a big stab wound and I was scared, and at the time the 2 people I was working with at the time, associates I'll call them, had advised me that it's best they get me stitched up themselves, because we had a lot of drugs in the premises at the time. So that's what we did. I had to sit there while some guys stitched me up, and I stitched myself up as well. Now I have like a 8 to 9 inches scar on my leg, and every day I have to look at that. It reminds me of what I got myself involved in. So it's a big wake up call. But if I didn't get stabbed like that, I probably wouldn't have woke up to reality. I probably wouldn't be here today still, because that same person, the associate, he's dead now. So yeah, a lot of the people that I once worked with in my criminal life, they're all dead. I'm the only survivor. So when you're selling that person a bag of weed or selling some crack or heroin or something like that, you're affecting not only that person, you're affecting every one of their family members, because in order to get the money, he's having to steal for that, you know what I mean? Steal from their family members. And luckily enough, I've never experimented with any drugs except from cannabis, but I've actually supplied those drugs to people, and I never thought I would do that. So I was literally damaging the lives of others. How my life was damaged. My dad was a burglar. That's why I can talk about that, because my dad used to burgle to feed his habit. So it's something I witnessed personally. I remember my dad actually coming home with lots of stuff. I remember him buying me a superbike, a brand new superbike. But I thought he bought it, he never bought it, it was stolen. So he put me on the back of it, and we used to go up and down the field. And that's my only memory I actually have of my dad that I actually enjoyed. Music is something children these days, they're listening to a lot of music, and the music I'm listening to is sending bad signals. So it's giving off bad energy. They're talking about guns, knives and stuff like that, and dealing. And right now in London we have we've had it for many years, the knife epidemic, you know. This music is even on the radio. Like it's that bad now that they've actually it's out there in the masses, it's in the mainstream now. And I think it's bad for children to be listening to music now, because it promotes a lot of sadness. If you listen to some of the lyrics, it's just not nice. Like for instance, some artists will talk about like stabbing someone, and the kids that are listening to this, they haven't been through it yet themselves. But if they keep listening to this music, they're gonna end up going through it themselves, because it's an influence, you know, to carry the knife. If you look at most of these kids, they all dress the same. They wear ever since the COVID epidemic. Since then, they've just been wearing these masks. I see them a lot like around here, because I live in the States. So I see them, they're all masked up, wearing their baddies and that. But if you take them baddies off of them children, deep down they're just scared. They're scared children have anxiety issues and problems and stuff like that. So their comfort for them is to wear the mask, you know. A lot of people in London, they keep their heads down and they focus. They go into one place and then they go into another. They haven't got time for even a welcome. So if you go in the street and say, hey, how are you? How you doing? You might not get a hi back. It's very rare for you to get to communicate with people that are so focused and they're going about their lives day to day. So life, like right now, it's not the best at times. The days go by very slow. Still dealing with a lot of stuff and still a lot of pain there. I find it hard to sometimes even get out of bed sometimes. I find it hard to sleep in general, you know. I get a lot of flashbacks from the past. Sleep can become a problem. So my mind's always active. I'm always thinking about stuff. I'd best describe it as the depression, you know. Depression is something that I have a big problem. Haven't been involved in any crime now since 2016, 7 years. But I've been living crime-free now. But it's still something that I do think about, I'll be honest with you. Because right now I live on benefits, and the benefits I get are not enough. I do sometimes still think of crime. I really try and motivate myself as much as I can, but there's days where it's so dark, it's depressing. But there's other people going through way more than what I'm going through right now, you know. Now I'm just trying to do as much as I can to help others. If I see someone that's struggling, if I see a homeless person that's hungry, I feed them. So recently I started, 4 months ago I started my own thing is where I spend, it doesn't cost a lot to do, it costs about £15, but for £15 I can make 100 sandwiches for every person, put it in, make a food bag and go out there in the night and give it out to people. And I've done that 4 times now. So I've done that every month, and that's my way of like giving back and helping, because I've experienced homelessness myself, so I know what that's like. So for me, I find relationships hard, and I express too much emotion around me. I met a woman this year, became very attached to her very quick, and that scared her. And she asked me a few things, and I wasn't able to answer much, you know. So I doubt I'll ever find someone that could understand. You've got to kind of love yourself before you can love someone. I don't love myself. I've had one night stand with people before, but I've not ever had a relationship in my life. I don't think, as I said, I don't think I ever will. And I find it hard to make friends, and I find it hard to keep friends now. Gangs, it felt like a family to me, you know. I really got the sense of they were looking out for my well-being at the time. I got the sense that I could get a lot of money out of this, you know. I could shop at places otherwise I wouldn't be able to shop at. I got the sense of if I keep doing this for long enough, I can have everything I want, and then the world's going to be perfect. But it doesn't start like that, and it doesn't end like that. So I realised it ends. There's 2 ways it can go: death or jail. I'm lucky I never went to jail. I'm lucky I didn't die from the stab wounds, and plus I had multiple attacks in my life since I was stabbed. So it's like whatever you've done in your past always comes back to haunt you. So these days I still have to look over my shoulder, and so a life of crime, I would advise anybody to not follow that route, not go down that path, because it's a one-way road. You're literally signing your own death certificate.